if we're okay with talking about Not Okay. Now streaming on Hulu, just came out on Friday. Really glad we could make time for this. Kind of had a free week because nothing except an obnoxious animated movie came to theaters. This movie, there's a good amount to unpack with this movie too. Essentially, I guess I should say first, it opens with a content warning, which is always interesting. It says the film contains flashing lights, themes of trauma, and an unlikable female protagonist. So that's the tone set in the movie too. The movie revolves around Danny Sanders, played by Zoey Deutch, who's first off, this is her first acting role. She was in The Outfit earlier this year, but this is her first acting role in a movie in like 4 years. And I was kind of surprised because I'm like, yeah, this has been a while since I've seen her. I didn't see The Outfit, Joe. I know you did.
I did, yes.
Yeah, but I was like, man, it's been a long time. I feel and like I keep thinking it was like 2 years ago. Everybody Wants Some, which was one of her first major roles, major being relative. That was 6 years ago. So she's taken on this role though as Danny Sanders, who is this photo editor for this very believably conceived online magazine called Depravity. And essentially she wants to convince her boss that she's cut out to be like a content writer. But it's kind of tricky to explain, but like after a conversation with a very rugged Dylan O'Brien in this movie, who's like an influencer, she lies and says she's going to France. So she decides to fake like she is going on this writer's retreat in France. So since she's a photo editor, she doctors all her photos to believably look like she was in Paris and France. Well, she's in the Arc de Triomphe the day the city experiences a real life horrific terrorist attack that leaves 30 dead.
Yeah.
They said. So, and like right where she posts the photo where she's at, like hour later, minutes later, whatever, the city's attacked. So instead of coming clean and posting like an apology Instagram story, like a somewhat decent human being would probably do in that situation, she runs with it. She's a survivor of a terrorist attack over here. And she links up with Rowan Aldrin, who's played by Mia Isaac, who survived a school shooting that claimed the life of her sister. So she kind of like the two share this now platform of being survivors and attend all these like gun reform rallies and legislature reform rallies and stuff, all while she's a complete and total fraud. First things first, there's a lot to compliment about Zoey Deutch in this role. I never know if I'm saying her name correctly, but Mia Isaac is really good. I said in my review, which you can read at stevepulaski.com, Mia Isaac is probably the best young actress right now that doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. This is her second movie this summer. She was in Don't Make Me Go, which is on Amazon Prime Video. I know we didn't review that. That's got John Cho in it, too. And that's a good movie, too. It comes with you want to talk about unforgivable twists. It does come with a twist you will not see coming. You will not see coming. And that's kind of engulfs the conversation of that movie a little bit more than I think it should. It's not a great twist and it doesn't handle it very well, but that aside, it's a pretty solid movie. Cho is great in it, and Mia Isaac is a standout in that movie too. And I think she's on her way to a damn good career, as is Quinn Shephard, who directed the movie as well. There's a good amount to like about this thing. There are some nitpicks, at least that I have, but I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. So I'll throw it over to Joe. What's your general thoughts on Not Okay?
Steve, my general thoughts, man. There was a little movie last year that we went to go see called Dear Evan Hansen. And it was about a guy who faked being friends with somebody that committed suicide and was coasting off the fame and getting close with that dude's sister so he can have sex with her and all this other stuff. And, the idea of following a protagonist like that, it can work. But Dear Evan Hansen tried to make me feel sorry for the guy the entire time, despite the fact that he was doing that.
But he could sing, though.
But he could sing! This 30-year-old man in high school could sing! What I like about this movie is that, at least for the most part, they do not want you to like Zoey Deutch's character. They open with that content warning to let you know that Danny is going to be a piece of shit for what she's about to do. And for the most part throughout the movie, she is one of those people that is obsessed with influencer culture and wants to be an influencer so bad. And it basically hits on everything that we hate about influencers. she's about as unlikable as Dylan O'Brien's character is in this movie. But the thing is, Dylan O'Brien's character is just famous because he's an influencer, but he's just as unlikable as she is. The only difference is that he has that blue check mark next to his name and she doesn't. I really like what they did with this movie in terms of like poking fun at the influencer culture and everything. And how like a situation like this of somebody like, you know, kind of coasting off of a traumatic experience and bringing up things that actually happen to people who actually deal with traumatic experiences, similar to Rowan's character played by Mia Isaac, where yeah, I mean like you get attacked by people online because, you know, it's just like people just always attack the victim and everything. There's a few things this movie kind of brushes on, and like they bring it up like, oh yeah, this is a thing that happens online, but you don't really get to see it, and it would have been really cool to actually get to see that point of view. And I really think in the last 30 minutes they start like changing your perspective of Danny should be. And I was just like, wait, hold on, for like the first 2 acts you made me want to be like, yeah, isn't what she's doing terrible, to now it's like, okay, but like she's a good person at heart. And it's just like, wait, hold on, this is a whole different movie now. But like I said, for the most part, I really did enjoy this movie. I found it to be very funny at times. Dark. It is a dark comedy in my opinion, because I recommended it to a friend, and she came back and went, I don't know how you found any of this to be funny, and like, you know, this really, really disturbed me. And I was just like, all right, I guess dark comedy it is. But I very much thought that Zoey Deutch and Mia Isaac definitely stole the show here with their performance, especially when they're on screen together. When they're on screen together, it's almost at those points I actually do feel like Danny is a good person, but then like she goes further with the lie, and it's just like, yeah, no, you're not a good person. Dom, how about you?
Movies with that the premise is that the protagonist has a massive, gigantic lie, and that's the pretty much the premise of the entire dramatic irony and the whole tension and everything. I kind of don't like those movies, and those movies really have to earn my buy-in, because the whole time I'm just cringing and just like, this keeps getting worse and worse. You can see it coming a mile away. There are exceptions where I do like them, like A World's Greatest Dad. That one just went all in. Right, that one went all in at the beginning, where it's like, yeah, the son died due to autoerotic asphyxiation, and he's just the worst piece of shit. It's like, okay, this is totally playing into Robin Williams' dark side, and that actually wound up being a pretty damn good movie. Dear Evan Hansen at least had singing and a couple of decent tunes, but the others I'd like to not forget, or I would like to forget. This movie, not okay. So most movies, I usually have a level of like, okay, I'm here, and then it can kind of go here either way. Not okay. I honestly started off like low, pretty damn low, because it's like, oh god, we're doing this, we're kind of doing the Deer and Hansen kind of thing, and then it pulls the rug underneath me, and by the end of this movie, I am up here with it, man. On the writing alone, pacing has some issues. I can't even fully describe it. Honestly, Joe, you probably just nailed it right there for me. But dude, 2022, well, movies all over the place have been plagued by some pretty damn piss poor writing. Stuff that might have been decent, just completely just through the trapdoor, sunk due to its really bad writing. Jurassic World Dominion. I mean, that's got other problems going with it. But you know, I don't know. I'm looking at what we've been watching here. Firestarter, Don't Look Up is a decent movie.
That's what this movie reminded me of at points.
Yes, yeah. You know what? That's true now that I think about it. But just the writing has been lacking. What Quinn Shephard has been able to do is give me an original idea, an original perspective, an original thought, and there's a lot of messages on the periphery, influencer, there's a lot of politics stuff going on, this and that on the periphery. The main message of the movie for me, probably gotten to at the end, but for me, the one that affected me the most is the lesson of, in this online world where everything can be so incredibly vapid, people can get away with so much, not just online, but in politics as well, which one and the same at this point, right? People can get away with so much. People can re-enter the sphere. Just take a few months off and then they'll be fine and they're right back into it. Suffering no consequences. This movie drives home the point that when you fuck up, you should just sit with your guilt.
Yeah.
Sit with your guilt and really learn from your mistakes.
Yep.
You haven't learned from your mistakes. Humble yourself, be shamed, doubt yourself, and learn from your mistakes, you piece of shit. Like that to me, it took a while to get there, but that is the heart and soul of this movie, and I am so thankful for it.
I want to just quickly say, like, as much as I was like, yeah, the third act kind of like it starts to like, you know, juggle a lot of things and it makes you try to change your perspective and whatnot. I will say the way this movie ends is like picture perfect. I was like, yes, all right, that's how, like, I know like Dear Evan Hansen's a musical and everything, but Dear Evan Hansen needed to be at least a fraction of what that ending is.
You almost took it out of my mouth. You almost took the words out of my mouth there. At least this movie, unlike Dear Evan Hansen, gives the right person the final monologue.
Yeah.
It gives the right person the final monologue. And that final shot of this movie is perfect.
Yeah.
Is perfect. The lighting, the atmosphere, everything about the final shot of Not Okay. This is a good, I would say that at the end, if I could distill it down very generically, this is a good movie with a 4-star ending.
Yeah.
Really, because it puts Mia Isaac's character back in the main light. And it also robs Danny, Zoey Deutch's character. It robs her of like a moment where, okay, all is well, things are getting back to normal, because no, they're not. It robs her of that. And I thought that for a movie that got a little too sympathetic to her, especially when she links up with Rowan and they start their activist thing together, the movie starts to get a little too sympathetic or empathetic, I think is a more appropriate word, right, with Danny, but by the midsection. But then it reclaims itself and refocuses itself with that ending.
I agree, and I think that's ultimately how I feel about that. But you could even make an argument that the part where, and we're kind of getting into spoiler territory here, it's whatever, but like
flirting with it. But the midsection, mid to 3/4 section, where they are getting real buddy, and like I think that actually, I'm starting to even come to the conclusion that builds up to the ending, that plays into it, because there's a point in the monologue, the ending monologue, where she is going, "You will not replace my sister." That's not verbatim, but that's essentially what she's saying. You thought you could replace my sister? Really? You thought you could do that? Be my friend and like whatever? You could fake your way into this? No, you're not. You're not my sister. And like that needed to be supplied by her almost feeling sympathetic. It's almost like the movie tricks you, right? It almost tricks you into thinking, you know, maybe she does deserve this. And then that the payoff is, oh, no, I thought she did. She absolutely does not. I think, too, the other thing, like if we're diving into a few criticisms here, if we're just taking this route, I think the ending, though, also reminded me of what I think the movie sort of misses until it's time for until the monologue comes. And then by that point, it's too late to really go into it. But it's the real theft of trauma that Danny commits with this lie. And not just this lie, but like then linking up with somebody who actually did survive a catastrophic school shooting that took the life of her sister, and then winds up unfairly sharing the platform and then it steals her trauma, which I believe Rowan does mention in the monologue, is the theft of trauma element that makes this a lot worse. Like that makes an already horrible situation like just categorically reprehensible, in that it's the theft of the trauma and it's the ownership of this platform that she does not deserve, which I think kind of gets lost a little bit, at least in the middle of the movie. But then when it's addressed at the end, I'm like, at least they did address it. Yeah. And they didn't even take the race angle either, which I'm kind of, in a way, I think, you know, you can't tackle everything in an hour and 40-minute movie, and that would be a whole other layer to it too. But
lightly hinted at in the beginning,
lightly hinted at, yeah,
in the opening montage, but and it's there the whole time. There's an undercurrent of that, but it's not forward.
Yeah, but Shepherd doesn't make that the starring thing. Like Shepherd trusts us enough to really put that connection together and really ham that home too. I will say, apropos of really nothing too, and I'll throw it over to Joe after this too if you want to piggyback off this because I am a little jumping around here. But I will say that like Shepherd, at least for me, because this is the second movie I've watched with her, that both of her movies I've seen. I will say is that like there's not many filmmakers that could show up in their own movies for an 11th hour cameo wearing an unsubtle t-shirt and like really scolding their own protagonist that they wrote. But Shepherd is so damn charismatic and so like forceful. I did get a laugh out of that whole scene. I think a lesser director or a less talented director, especially at that age, that would be really tacky. But I did like that bit moment she had where she puts herself in the movie and she's like lecturing her own protagonist. There was an undercurrent of meta there that I really did appreciate too. And only enhanced, I think, by her t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, kind of just piggybacking off what you guys said. I mean, like there is so much to like about this movie. The only point that I didn't like the movie, like I said in the third act, is just because, as Dom was saying, it does a lot of things like original with this idea. Like it's not like completely original, but what it's doing with it, it's refreshing. It reminded me a lot of why I loved Ingrid Goes West. And I was like, yes, okay, like this is making fun of influencer culture, but also how influencer culture can not just be a toxic like area to be in as an influencer yourself, but how much it's like, it makes other people toxic because they want to be just like those influencers they see online. And like how much like an Instagram like amount of likes really pays into somebody's mindset and everything. I think it does a great job with that. Like the third act, which is, I was like, damn, I really wish it went a different route here. Is like, because the movie opens up, the movie opens up with her at her downfall, where everybody finds out the truth. So like by the end of this movie, that's gonna happen, and it just kind of felt like there's this one character that keeps popping up that's always just like, it's just like. And it's just like, that's all that character is. And every time she was on screen and everything, it kind of just felt like, okay, are you going to find the clues that eventually makes you realize? And the way she finds the clue is something I've been hating about movies nowadays when it comes to like, oh, I got to hide this big secret. But they leave their phone, their laptop, their doors unlocked to like, the secret that they, it's just like, dude, like, I love Get Out, but Get Out had the same thing too, where like they left like the little creek open of like all the photographs of the past boyfriends. I was a little eye roll at that too, because I'm like, why? And again, we're flirting with spoiler territory here, but it's like, why the hell would that program and that photo still be up on your laptop? That was weeks ago. It was just like, that was weeks ago. It honestly made me want to go, dude, I would love this movie even more if it just doubled down and nobody found out and only the audience is aware of like the horrible things she is committing and everything. And then you kind of have to, then you have like the live with yourself sort of complex. Yeah. It was like, I kind of was like hoping, I'm like, man, what if they go that way? But because the film opens with that, it's just like, damn, that would have been dastardly. I was like, as much as I did love the way a movie ended, it's just, that third act of like the whole like everybody's finding out now, it just kind of felt like, okay, we're kind of hitting those same story beats that all these other movies have, but it does stick that landing with the ending. That it's like, oh, okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for.